Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Hello, Janelle. Hello, Heldy. Hello to everybody else that is joining us here on this edition of TDN Daily, Cornerback Room Rankings. Heldy making the large assumption that his team is going to be in the top five. I wouldn't be so sure about that, Heldy. I wouldn't, I wouldn't lock yourself into anything here before the list gets underway. I wouldn't commit yourself to any specific spot on the rankings or I just wouldn't do that. I would just caution against thinking ahead of time where you think your team's gonna sit, just because you just don't know. You just have no idea the way the lists are going to pan out. But good morning, everybody. Welcome in. Cornerback room rankings 1 through 32. This one hot off the presses. This one finished up this morning. I don't love it. I got to be honest with you. I feel like every time we do one of these lists, my immediate reaction is to say that I don't love it, but I don't love this list. I feel strong about certain teams being in certain spots in certain ranges, and feeling like I like groups more than most, but it's not great. You're right, Janelle. I never love the lists. It's the list that I put together. That's why I don't love it, because I know what's going to happen when we do these lists on the show is that the debates will commence and we'll make 57 changes. But I never go into this loving one of our lists. Maybe I liked some of our offensive rankings. I think I liked like our quarterback room rankings. I think I like those. But yeah, it's few and far between. But all right, I got to turn the ring light on, and then we can get started. All right, we are back. Let's get this show on the road. We will transition to this screen. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. 32 teams, 32 corner rooms. I don't think you're going to be surprised at the bottom of the list. I don't think you're going to be surprised by the top of the list. That's normally how these things go. So let's get the show started. And welcome into the Friday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back with you here once again on the show. Hope everybody is having a fantastic start to their Friday, the end of the week, the weekend right around the corner. And we've got one more positional ranking show for you this week. It is the corners that are up next here, 1 through 32, ranking all 32 teams' corner rooms ahead of the 2023 season. I will say we've got a lot of rookie impact players that are a part of this group. Everybody knows the drill how we account for rookies in this, but that was kind of my big takeaway from going through this is there's going to be some rookie contributors this year that are going to be able to help their respective teams, and it kind of puts their rankings in weird spots to start, but I think the ceilings for a lot of these players are relatively high. I know that everybody in the YouTube chat is ready to go. The pre-show banter was very high. Everybody ready to discuss a list that I did say in the pre-show I don't like. And Janelle rightly pointed out in the pre-show that I never like any of the lists. I don't love any of the lists that I put together, and that is a 100% accurate representation about how I feel about this. Not to say it's not fun, not to say I don't enjoy this process, and I'm loving what we're doing here. But the act of putting the lists together is a challenge. It is a welcome challenge, but it is a challenge, and I think every time I get done with a list through the first run through or two, I don't love it. And that's why I love when we do these shows, because it allows me to kind of fill in some gaps and put some teams into better spots, and we feel a lot better about it. So, all right, we'll get into it. We'll dive right in. We'll do these in chunks. We'll do the top 5 here first. Let me just highlight them so I can see them on my screen here. And listen, I understand that there's going to be an accusation that is thrown my direction when I put the team that I have at number 1, put at number 1. And I'm okay with that accusation being thrown my direction. Because I think if you have, at worst, 2 of the top 12 corners in the league, I think that puts you number 1. And so I do have, and again, you can throw all the slander you want at me. You want to call me biased? You can do that. And I'm okay, and I will accept that. But if you're going to sit up here and tell me that you're not going to look at a cornerback room of Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed and not tell me that that's not the number 1 corner room in all of football just because you've got those 2 guys, they're number 1 for me. They are the number 1 corner room for me in 2023. And again, I'm already seeing Bailey saying this is Elijah Vera Tucker all over again. Don't be slandering Sauce Gardner like that. Don't be slandering DJ Reed like that. This is not Elijah Vera Tucker game. That I understood. I understood what everyone's point was there. You're not getting me here. The list is not ruined. The list is not ruined with the Jets being number 1, because I think it worse they're number 2 and you flip flop them with the team that's number 2. And so we're not doing this today. The team at number 2, would be the Philadelphia Eagles. Slay, Bradbury, Maddox. They do have Keely Ringo. Again, not counting him, in this as a positive or a negative, but just a name to note here when going through this. So I have the Philadelphia Eagles at number 2. Rounding out my top 3, I have the Green Bay Packers, Alexander Stokes and Rasul Douglas. Number 4 is where I put the Miami Dolphins. I'm a little bit lower on the Dolphins than most. I know a lot of people would put the Dolphins at least number 1, probably number 2. On their list. I'm a little worried about Jalen Ramsey as he gets older. Is Xavier Howard with the injury history, and they don't have a ton of depth. Kader Kohu played a lot for them last year. Cam Smith is a rookie, and so again, I like the names of Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard, but I just don't know if their recent play is warranted enough to have them be in the top 2, and so I move them down a little bit to number 4, and then to round out the top 5, we have the Cleveland Browns, Ward, Newsome, and Emerson. As the trio of note there for Cleveland. So those are the top 5. Jets, Eagles, Packers, Dolphins, Browns are how I see the top 5. So Heldy, don't worry. We did get the Eagles, another top appearance on this list. And I think, I don't have the spreadsheet open, but I think this is the highest they've been on any of these lists. At number 2, I can't think of a group in which they were number 1, but they might have been. But they have so far been the team that every time we do one of these lists, seemingly is always finding themselves into the top 5 on a pretty regular basis, and they're in at number 2. The rest of the top 10, they might have been number 1 in O-line. It might have been number 1 or number 2 in O-line, Heldy. That's a good point. They were probably, they were number 1. They were number 1. The rest of the top 10 here, and I am lower. Oh, Taylor B, I see that you're in here. You may want to skip today's show. You may want to watch this one on demand. You may not want to be here, and it's going to take a while to hear your team. And I don't want to subject you to that because there's been some Jacksonville Jaguars slander the last couple days on the show, and it hasn't been very good between you and I. And I don't want things to get worse here today, and I think they might. I think we might be teetering on things getting a little bit worse today. So I just want to be out in front about that, as I would be a little concerned about where the Jags are ranked on this list. But outside the rest of the top 10, outside the top 5, and I am lower on a certain team than everybody else. And they fall out of the top 10 for me. And I'll explain when we get there. But number 6, I have the Kansas City Chiefs, Snead, McDuffie, and Watson. I have the Dallas Cowboys at 7 with Diggs, Gilmore, and Bland. I like Gilmore. I think Diggs is kind of boom or bust. I know he had that big year where he had all those interceptions a couple years ago, but also gives up a ton of big plays. And so I'm not as high on that group as some other people. I have the Broncos at 8 with Surtain and Mathis. I've got the Buffalo Bills at 9, White, Elam, Benford, the trio there. And then I've got the Cincinnati Bengals at 10, Awuzie, Taylor Britt, Hilton. They do have DJ Turner in there as well. Those would be the top 10 that for me here in my corner rankings for 2023, entering the 2023 season. So rounding out the top 10, we have the Chiefs, Cowboys, Broncos, Bills, and the Bengals inside the top 10. Surprised no Tampa in the top 10. They're coming up here pretty soon here, Heldy. They and another team are kind of in this tier here where I'd like to move around. The depth isn't really great. The team at number 11 that I think if you asked a lot of other people, they would put in the top 10, but I have some concerns about this group. And it's the Los Angeles Chargers for me at number 11. J.C. Jackson, what version of J.C. Jackson are the Chargers going to get? Love Asante Samuel Jr., but when your number 1 corner is a guy that hasn't, signed that big contract there and hasn't really played all that great, hasn't played super up to the level of that contract, I'm skeptical of firmly putting them inside the top 10. So I have them right on the outside looking in. I have the New Orleans Saints at 12, Lattimore, Adebo, Roby, Taylor. And then I have Tampa at 13, Davis, Dean, and McCollum, a group that I'm higher on than most, a group that I have currently inside the top 16. I have them here at the 14th slot, and I think by season's end, we are going to be talking about them probably in the top 8, top 7. I have the Seattle Seahawks at 14. We know what Tariq Woolen can bring, was a defensive rookie of the year candidate, was one of the best young corners in the game last year. Kobe Bryant, no slouch either. And then they added Devin Witherspoon. Now, again, Devin Witherspoon's a net neutral for what we're doing here on this show, but you can't tell me that this group doesn't have the ceiling and the potential to go much higher than 14 by season's end. And we will, at the end of the year, go through these rankings and redo them based on rookie performers, based on who may be surprised, who played better than we expected. And so we'll do that project at season's end. But for me, I think this is one of those teams that I really have soft circled as they're in a pretty good spot right now, top half of the league corner room, but you also look at them as a team that could very quickly rise through these ranks if Devin Witherspoon is as good as we think he can be in the early going. Rounding out the top 16, so the top half of the league, we've got the Carolina Panthers, Horn, Jackson, Henderson, and then we've got the Houston Texans, Stingley Jr., Nelson, King, and Griffin, rounding out the top 16. Now, I haven't seen a ton of movement in the chat for a team that isn't in here or wanting to move up a team. So I will open the floor here before we continue with the back half of this list. Is there a team that anybody wants to stop and have a conversation about? Are there teams that anybody is eager to move right away? I know we want to have a conversation about the Jets and the Eagles. Maybe we can have that here in just a little bit. But I don't know if there's another team that we want to have a conversation about here in the meantime of the top 16 so far. And if there's a team that hasn't been mentioned that you would want to discuss in the top 16, you can mention them and we'll just put a star next to them. And when we get through the rest of this list, we can have that conversation. Taylor B says you're really sleeping on Tyson Campbell. I told you weren't going to like where I have them. Bailey says I would swap a few around, but nothing too egregious yet. Well, Bailey, that's to me the seal of approval. If I can get the list by you and it's not egregious or there's not like something so slanderous and that you disagree with a couple of different things, then that's fine. Number 17, a group that I'm really high on, the Atlanta Falcons. Terrell, Okudah, Hughes. I think this is going to be a higher rank than a lot of people probably anticipate. I'm a big believer in this group. I think Terrell's a really good number one corner. They trade for Jeff Okudah. I think the change of scenery is going to be really good. I think they have the potential to go much higher on this list. I think this is a really nice spot for them. We got Pittsburgh at 18. We've got the New England Patriots at 19. Again, Christian Gonzalez is going to bring this group up throughout the course of the season. Same thing with Pittsburgh and Joey Porter Jr. I think by the midway point of the season, these two teams are not currently sitting at 18 and 19. But again, we need to be consistent in the way that we're doing these lists. We need to be consistent in the approach that we're taking. And so for me, I think that feels like a nice spot for them right now. Heldy says, I think I'm slowly turning into a hashtag our Falcons guy. Bailey says, Okudah and Hughes have upside but haven't done anything yet. That spot feels about right with Terrell being established. Yeah, I think A.J. Terrell's good enough to have them have a pretty decent ceiling of a top 20 team. And I don't want to give too much credit to Okudah and Hughes, although I think there's upside for them this season, like you mentioned, Bailey. And so I think this group could go higher. And if those two guys play really well and Terrell plays really well, now you've got three guys, and then that puts you in a tier where we're talking about you like we're talking about Seattle, like we're talking about some of these other teams inside the top 10, top 14. And so that would be kind of the best case scenario if you were projecting out of how high a team could go. Atlanta's one of those teams for me. I got Tennessee at 20. We've got the Lions at 21. And then we've got Taylor B. We got your Jacksonville Jaguars at 22. And we can have a Tyson Campbell conversation if we want to move up because we think Tyson Campbell is good enough to kind of carry this group. I'm good with that. And I'm okay with us, marking a team down and having a conversation. But this is where I have the Jags on the first run through. I got Washington at 23. I'm probably lower on this group than most. Fuller, not that great. Forbes obviously is a rookie. So can't put too much of stock into that. And so I got to see more from Fuller this year. And I need Forbes to showcase himself as a rookie for them to move up. I got the Baltimore Ravens at 24. We've got the San Francisco 49ers at 25. The Minnesota Vikings at 26. The Chicago Bears at 27, Bailey. And we've got the Giants at 28. Again, it feels weird to have these next two teams listed where they are. The Giants at 28 and the Colts at 29. But with the Colts and Giants, Deonte Banks and Julius Brents, respectively, are going to be guys that are going to lift those groups up throughout the course of their rookie season. Again, viewing rookies as a net neutral right now, we can't put those groups really high in the process. We kind of have to let it all play out before we can move them up. And so as somebody who's the biggest Julius Brent stan there is, it's tough to see this group down here at 29 because I think he's going to be the best corner on that team. But I think the rest of that room, they got Rush. Who knows what's going to happen with Isaiah Rodgers? So it's a group that very quickly its depth is kind of going away. And so I don't know if I could rate them pretty highly. And then the bottom three, I don't think it's going to be a surprise. We got Arizona at 30. We got Vegas at 31. And we got the Rams at 32. And the thing that allows me to put the Cardinals above the Raiders and the Rams is Marco Wilson played okay. And the Cardinals are the one team of this group that has a rookie young player that I think could have an impact in Garrett Williams. And so I felt down in this stage of the list, I felt comfortable giving a little bit of weight to a rookie as a tiebreaker, and that's what allowed me to put the Cardinals at 30 in front of the Raiders and the Rams. But those three are clear the bottom three for me. So that's it. That's 1 through 32. I know we want to have a conversation about moving Jacksonville up a little bit. Is there any other major team that we want to put on a big to-do list to have a conversation about? I'm gonna italicized Jacksonville because I know we want to have a conversation about them. Is there any other team that we want to very quickly make a motion to discuss, and we can put a star next to them, and then we can go back through the list? I just want to ask the chat before we dive headfirst into Jacksonville to get all the names of teams that we want to discuss. I feel comfortable locking in the bottom three, by the way, Arizona, the Raiders, and the Rams. So I am going to lock those 3 teams in. And so now we're dealing with 29 teams that we are discussing. But again, what other teams do we want to throw in the mix? Heldy says, got to put the list in front of my dumb face before I know. Okay, stand by. Let me get that screen set up here. I need to put it in a position. I need to zoom in again as I always do, and figure this out. So all right, we're gonna have this. We're gonna have this down here. I got to zoom in so you guys can see the list because you can't see the writing. I think the Bears have a better group than the few above them, especially considering Kyler Gordon was good in the nickel, just terrible outside. But I am biased. Jalen Johnson is always underrated. All right, we can mark the Bears down as well. So I think we can very quickly. I think the Bears are worse. Janelle, we can't move the Bears lower than where they are. I know you're just being a Packers fan, but we can't do this. Yeah, thank you for admitting you're biased as well. I appreciate that. But at 27, I feel like that's as low as I'm comfortable. Okay, here you go. Full screen coming at you. We have the list here. And I think we'll start with the top 10. I think is probably a nice place for us to start now that we've got the list full screen. All right, you know what, guys? You're gonna bully me into it, and that's fine. We're gonna put the Eagles 1. We're gonna put the Jets 2. Okay, just because I don't want to sit here and debate for 48 minutes about Philadelphia or the Jets. Philadelphia's got better depth. I think Sauce and Reed are good enough to where they can carry the group to be number 2. I'll make the flip. Heldy, you're happy. You get a win. You get another spot. You get another position where you're number 1, and we can just move on, and we don't have to sit here for an hour debating. Anything in the rest of the top 10 that we want to have a conversation about? I'm surprised I didn't get a ton of pushback on moving Miami down, although still being in the top 4. Again, I still view them pretty highly. And then maybe some Bills hate for having them down a little bit. But those would be the 2 teams that I would consider. I think the Packers are better than the Jets too, by the way. And on this, I am not biased. I can't get there. Sauce and Reed are better than Jair and Stokes. And Michael Carter, who I didn't even put on this list, is really good. I'm actually going to put Carter on this list. I feel very comfortable having the Jets at number 2. But anything else in the top 10, or else we'll lock the top 10 in, and then we'll continue to go to the spots that are always question marks for us, which is the middle tier. Right, but I think Sauce was better than Jair Alexander, Bailey, last year. And so I think this is fine. I think we leave this right here. We'll lock in the top 3 at least. And then we've got the rest of the top 10. Any thoughts of moving Cincinnati up a little bit? Any thoughts of Buffalo? I'm just asking questions that I know I contemplated when putting the list together. I know I'm lower on Dallas than people probably will be. I think they probably view this group as top 4. I think Diggs is fine. I think Diggs is good, but I don't think Diggs gets the. I don't know if I would put him in that elite tier that would put them higher up on the list. I would honestly move New Orleans up. They're a tough one for me, right? Because Marshawn Lattimore is really good. I think Paulson Adebo is a nice player. I have questions about J.C. Jackson. I kind of outlined it when I talked about the Chargers, and so I could move them up. I still think. I guess the question we have to ask ourselves, and it's not rhetorical. I'm asking the question of the group: how much weight do you want to give to having a true shutdown number 1 corner? Like, how much weight do you want to give that? And if you do, then I think we can move. I think we can move New Orleans up. I think we could probably move Carolina up. And I think we could maybe move Denver up. If you want to talk about giving some good weight to the idea of having a true number 1 corner. And so if we want to do that, I think a group like corner is a weak link ranking, not an elite guy ranking. And that's fair, Bailey, is you want to look at this. And again, I want to give things the proper weight. And so if we want to move the Saints up a couple of spots, because I think if we went full to the other end of the spectrum and we said we want to put maximum weight on having a number one corner, then I think New Orleans moves up into this conversation of top 5. And I think if we just kind of look at the room in total and we want to make some slight tweaks, I think we can get New Orleans up to maybe like 9 or 10, and that might be a little bit more fair. And so I think if we want to really truly give a decent amount of weight to Marshawn Lattimore, but not enough to where it overrides everything else, then I think we can move the Saints up a little bit. And so I am going to move the Saints up. I'm going to move them up at least to 11 right now in front of the Chargers. Because for example, AJ Terrell is really good, but right now you aren't throwing at him because the other guys are so unproven, so it doesn't matter. I agree. I understand 100%. Paul says the Texans will be top 10 this year. Listen, Paul, I appreciate you coming in here and supporting your Houston Texans. But if we move the Texans up any higher than 16, the pitchforks might come out from the chat. Because every time I rank the Texans high on one of these lists, I get in trouble. LD says, not every team with a true number one this applies to. Taylor B says, I'd put it at the same weight as having a true number one wide receiver. And then Heldy says, I just think their group is more solid. I think they have a decent enough group behind Lattimore to where you can raise it up. I think in the case, the example that Bailey mentioned is Okudah and Hughes are kind of unknowns. And so I don't know if we want to give AJ Terrell the kind of weight that shoots the Falcons totally up the board. And I'm okay with that. I'm good with that being the case. So other teams that we want to potentially discuss, do we want to maybe have a conversation between the Saints and the Bengals? These are groups that are both relatively deep. Awuzie, Taylor, Britt, Hilton. Then you got Turner as a rookie, Lattimore, Paulson Adebo, Roby, and Taylor. I think we could do this and feel pretty good about it and move the Saints up to 10 and then lock in the top 10. I think is probably fair. Actually, I would lock all the way down to 11 if we do that. And then we have Eagles, Jets, Packers, Dolphins, Browns, Chiefs, Cowboys, Broncos, Bills, Saints, Bengals as our top 11. And I feel pretty good about that. And I think the tiebreaker for me with the Saints and the Bengals now looking at it is Lattimore is really, really good. And I don't think Cincinnati has that true one. They're really deep and they can move guys around. But I think the Saints have an equal level of depth that allows Lattimore to kind of be the tiebreaker. All right, so now we've got 1 through 11 locked, and we have 30 through 32 locked. So we're debating 12 through 29. What teams in this tier do we want to discuss? I know we want to discuss moving Jacksonville up because of Tyson Campbell, and I'm okay with that. I'm kind of high on this Lions group than most, but I could hear an argument for Jacksonville being higher on this list. I think Houston's got a deep group, Paul. And so I think by year's end we might move them up because another step up for Stingley. They've got some veteran presence in there. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they grow and evolve throughout the course of the season. Do we want to maybe move Tampa in front of the Chargers? I feel like all of a sudden the Chargers are the team that's completely falling for us. And like Davis and Dean, I think, are they a better combo than Jackson and Samuel right now? They might be. We might do this flip. We might put the Chargers really low. And we're going to put the Bucs at 12. And I think we're going to lock the Bucs in at 12. And move on. There's some talk about the Lions group being good. Listen, I think when discussing the Lions, right? And Bailey mentioned injuries are the main concern, but no idea how to weight that in rankings like this. I get it. And Janelle says the Lions group is entirely new for them. How would they be able to work together? All fair questions. But I don't have them ranked very high. They're 21st. And I think once you start getting outside of the top 20, I think talent can be a tiebreaker. And so just because this Lions group may have some injuries, I think that's kind of weighted in them being outside of the top 20. And I think them being, needing to gel together, I think it's also weighted in the fact that they're outside the top 20. And so I don't want to punish them too harshly for that. I know we want to move Jacksonville up, and I know we want to discuss Carolina was a team that was invoked. Man, are we really going to have the Chargers this low? They're 13 right now, and I could make a case to put Seattle and Carolina both in front of them. Tuttle says, I like the Lions in the 18 to 21 range. Then I have them at the floor of your range, which would mean I'm taking the worst case example of what you guys are suggesting. So I think they're fine. I'm not going to lock them in specifically because we might move teams around, but I don't think we're going to move them. Taylor B, it's the thing that concerns me the most. J.C. Jackson was not good last year, and that makes me want to. I don't want to. Again, I want to weight that properly and not completely punish the Chargers. But I think if you look at it, Tariq Woolen was better than Jackson last year. J.C. Horn, like I'm doing it, folks. I'm not putting the Texans in front of them, but I'm moving the Chargers down, and we're putting Seattle and Carolina in front of them. And I think we're going to lock to this because I do think there is too much weight that we could be putting on an injury for underperformance for J.C. Jackson. So I'm going to put them at 15 and kind of lock them in there. So now we've got 16 through 29 still locked. Now Atlanta got some criticism for being this high, but I think we're okay because I think we're weighting Okudah and Hughes properly here. Jacksonville's a team that we want to move up. Can we get Jacksonville in front of Detroit? I think we can get them in front of Detroit. Can we get them in front of Tennessee? There's just a lot of guys in the Tennessee room. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Caleb Farley's not really a thing yet. Roger McCreary is okay. Sean Murphy Bunting. It's a fine group. I don't think it's a great group. So I could get Jacksonville in front of Tennessee. I want to do this and see what this looks like. So just bear with me. Bear with me, chat. I'm going to move Jacksonville up to 20. Move them up to 20 and see what we have. So now we have to debate if we want to move Jacksonville in front of New England and in front of Pittsburgh. Is Pittsburgh too high? I mean, Patrick Peterson was fine last year. He wasn't great. Wallace is an okay player. So I will ask the chat this question. And I think the way the chat answers this question is going to tell us a lot about what we want to do here. What's the difference between Pittsburgh and Detroit? What is the difference when looking at those two groups? Because if your answer is Pittsburgh has the upside of Joey Porter Jr., then I think we need to move the Steelers now. But I don't know if looking at this, and this is why I love the way that we do this, where we do the list and I run through it the way that it initially came to me when writing it down, and now we can look at it on paper and I can actually see it and talk it out with you guys. I don't know if looking at this, I feel any differently about Pittsburgh's group over Detroit's group, other than the fact that Joey Porter Jr. is there. So I think we can move the Steelers down. And so I think we can move the Steelers down, and let's put them in front of Detroit for the moment, but like I'm not locking that in. And so now we've got Jacksonville up to 19. We've got Pittsburgh down to 21. Now we've got the Patriots. They've got the two Joneses, Mills, and Gonzalez. Is Gonzalez doing too much of the heavy lifting here? I don't think so. I think this is a fair ranking. I think if we flip Jacksonville and New England, I think we are fine. Well, I'll flip Jacksonville and New England, and then I think that's as high as I'm willing to go with Jacksonville. Taylor B says, I think the Falcons are still too high. I know Terrell wasn't that great last year. What's the difference between the Atlanta Falcons and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Detroit Lions? What's the difference between the Atlanta Falcons and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Detroit Lions? I think Terrell is a better player than Patrick Peterson. I think Sutton. So I think Atlanta would go in front of Pittsburgh. They would go in front of Detroit. I think they have to go in front of Tennessee. I like their group better. And so at best, I'm flipping them one spot because I still think they're better. No, I'm going to leave it. Because I think Atlanta absolutely is better than these two teams, Pittsburgh and Detroit. I think they're better than Tennessee. I mean, maybe I could flip Jacksonville and Atlanta and go Jacksonville 17 and Atlanta 18. But like, that's yeah, I'm going to lock this in. I just am. Because I think one spot, I still think I would keep Atlanta in front of all of these teams. So like, we're flipping them one spot. And I'm an AJ Terrell stan. I just am. I'm going to lock this in through 18. So now we've got 19 through 29. Do we want to go from the back part of the list or the top of the list? Do we want to go from 19 where we have New England, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh, or do we want to tackle the bottom with teams like the Bears, the Giants, and the Colts? I got to tell you, having Minnesota at 26 bothers me because I think Murphy's going to thrive, but again, that's a projection. I think Booth's going to have a better year. They've got a player that can be an impact rookie in Mekhi Blackman, and again, these are all projections, and so because of that, I got to evaluate the group on how I feel about them, and that's why they ended up at 26. But, like, boy, do they feel like a group that can, quote-unquote, overachieve their ranking on this list and be much higher by year's end. Is there anything else that we want to discuss? Heldy says, honestly, if Isaiah Rodgers wasn't gambling, I'd be much higher on Indy's group. Yeah, but I can't get there because Rodgers might be gone. Brens is a rookie. Like I just got too. Yeah, I'm gonna lock in the Colts at 29 just because I got too many questions. The Bears corners weren't bad last year on film. They had to cover for 5 hours with an XFL pass rush. Bailey, where am I moving them? Taylor B says I still think Pittsburgh is too high. Oh, Taylor B. I think we're gonna overcorrect here if we continue to move Pittsburgh now. I think there's going to be a massive overcorrection here. I would rather have Baltimore's corners than Pittsburgh's. Marlon Humphrey, Rocky Sin. They got Jalen Elmore Davis. I mean, Humphrey and Rocky Sin is probably a better duo than Peterson and Wallace, right? But Rocky. All right, chat. All right. I'm going to do something. How does that feel? How do we like that? Is that better for you? Is that better? I just flipped Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I put Pittsburgh 24, I put Baltimore 21. How do we feel about that? I think Pittsburgh's group's better than San Francisco's. Like, I think Pittsburgh's group's better than all four of these groups. So I think we can put Pittsburgh at 24. We move Baltimore up. But now I'm starting to ask myself, would I rather the Baltimore group or would I rather the Tennessee group? And part of me thinks I'd rather have the Baltimore group. So, folks, the Baltimore Ravens are going to be a big riser. So we're going to flip them, and we are going to put them in front of Tennessee, and we're going to move Tennessee down to 21. 49ers have an elite pass rush. Their corners don't cover for that long. Yeah, but and they don't have a ton of, like, other than Ward, they don't have a ton of talent. But I still think I have less questions about this group than I do about Minnesota's group. I mean, maybe we can move. I'm going to lock in 19 and 20. So now we're debating 21 through 28. And I think teams that we can move around would be San Francisco down, maybe Minnesota and Chicago up. I'm going to lock in the Giants at 28. So I think what we're debating here now is to move Minnesota and Chicago around. What if we did this? Is this something we could get on board with? Putting Minnesota and Chicago in front of San Francisco and have San Francisco 27 and have Minnesota and Chicago 25 and 26 and then have Pittsburgh 24. I feel like this looks better. I think this is a better representation of the talent that San Francisco has. I think this gives the Bears the proper amount of love. I think this feels like a better evaluation of Minnesota. We said that we liked Pittsburgh better than all these teams. I think Fuller can be a better player than this group. We've got Forbes and Porter Jr., which kind of wash each other out. So I'm okay with putting Washington in front. I kind of like where we're at here. Folks, we're doing it. Locking it in. We are now done. 1 through 32. Here it is. The brand new. Hot off the presses. Cornerback positional rankings for 2023. The Eagles 1, the Jets 2, the Packers 3, the Dolphins 4, the Browns 5, the Chiefs 6, the Cowboys 7, the Broncos 8, the Bills 9, the Saints 10, Bengals 11, Bucks 12, Seahawks 13, Panthers 14, Chargers 15, Texans 16, Falcons 17, Jags 18, Patriots 19, Ravens 20, Titans 21, Lions 22, Commanders 23, Steelers 24, Vikings 25, Bears 26, 49ers 27, Giants 28, Colts 29, Cardinals 30, the Raiders 31, and the Rams 32. So there you have it. 32 corner rooms ranked in the National Football League. We've only got a couple more of these shows left. We've got safeties coming up on Monday. We're going to do coaching, I think, next Wednesday. And then I'm working on the spreadsheet behind the scenes that have us keeping tally of this in real time. And I am attempting to figure out how to weight certain positions to give us a proper context to these rankings, and figuring out how to properly weight quarterback, to properly weighting offensive line, maybe just weighting the groups, I think, in the right context for how teams tend to team build and how those positions actually impact the football field, and giving us a kind of power rankings entering the 2023 season. So we're getting close to the conclusion of this series, and then we can kind of look back at where everything stands. But that is going to do it for us here on the Friday edition of the show. Appreciate every single one of you being here each and every day of the week. For those of you listening in the podcast feed, we would greatly appreciate you rating, reviewing, subscribing to the podcast wherever you are listening to the podcast. Cheap plug for us. We are available on YouTube Music. So if you listen to music over there, you listen to podcasts over on the YouTube Music app, you can just search up TDN Daily and you can see us over there as well. And you can see the video version of the show inside the YouTube Music app. And speaking of the video version of the show, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Draft Network YouTube channel. We are live there each and every day of the week. You see the live chat interaction. You see the way the chat makes their case. We have great dialogue, great debate here on the show. You can be a part of it. So come on over and join us Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But that is going to do it for us here on this edition of the TDN Daily Show. This week of the TDN Daily Shows is in the books. I hope everybody has a great rest of their Friday. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. We're back on Monday, continuing our positional ranking series. Until then, we'll see you next time. Post show. The safety rankings, we're not starting yet. We'll do that this weekend. We will do that this weekend. I have not started it yet. We're into the post show. What does everybody want to talk about in the post show? Eagles superiority. They do get another number one. Another number one. They're second. I don't know if any other team has. Let's take a peek here. This is what the post show is for. Positional rankings. Does any other group have 2 1s? No, I don't think so. The Chargers have 2 top 2s. Chiefs have 2 1s. The Chiefs have 2 1s. They have quarterback and tight end are there too. So the Eagles and the Chiefs are the 2 teams. Shocking that the 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl last year. Check this box. Were teams that had 2 1s in our ranking. Did anybody else? I'm just scrolling through all the teams that had 1s and seeing if any of them sit there. Taylor B, by special teams, you mean like kickers and punters? Because like I can't do punt coverage, and like I can't do that. The Packers have a 1 and a 3. They don't. The Packers do not have a 3. Packers have a 1 running back, but they don't have a 3. No, just kickers and punters in one group. I'll think about it. Yeah, Green Bay has a 1. Oh. Yeah, sorry, Janelle. I don't have corners in here yet. I don't have, because obviously we just changed the rankings. So if I just took my rankings when I finished them this morning and was doing them last night, then they obviously wouldn't. I didn't forget. It's just not in the spreadsheet. I'm not looking at the list anymore, Heldy. I'm looking at the spreadsheet and corners aren't in there yet. Unbelievable. So they have a 1 and a 3. Trying to think, is there any other team that's got some high stuff? He forgot, point and laugh. Cleveland's got a ton, but Cleveland ranked pretty low on this, right? No, they ranked high on this one too. They're Cleveland talent-wise has got a good roster. They just need Deshaun Watson to play well. Here is the Eagles. Here is the Eagles group so far. Just so I can read this. Quarterback 4, running back 6, wide receiver 3, tight end 6, offensive line 1, defensive line 7, edge 3, linebackers 29, and now corners 1. Like, that's insane. That is insanity how well this group ranks. Their average ranking is a 6, and it's only because the 29 of the linebackers is dragging them down. If I take out the 29, the Eagles' average ranking is a 3.875. So take linebackers out of the equation. The Eagles, on average, have a top 4 group in every position. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. That is what we've got here. All right, what do we want to talk about in the pre-show? What do we want to talk about in the pre-show? Ooh, there's a story on ESPN.com of ranking each NFL team by their 5 most important players. Huh, interesting. The new what from McDonald's? Okay, all right, hold on here. McDonald's. This is what the pre-show's for, folks. McDonald's news. McDonald's celebrate Grimace's birthday with a purple shake. No, thank you. I'm okay. I'm trying to eat healthier. I'll pass on the Grimace shake. I will. I will pass on that. I was morbidly curious. I mean, yeah. I mean, listen. I understand the curiosity, but now that I got a review from you and I am trying to eat healthier, I'm just gonna pass. Is it just vanilla with purple food coloring? I have no idea, Taylor B. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not gonna go find out. So here's what we've got left. We've got safeties on Monday. We've got coaches on Wednesday, and maybe we'll consider specialists on Friday, and then that'll close out that series. So that's what we've got left. And then in the meantime, we've got 2 other shows next week that we need to come up with topics for. And then after that, we don't have any major series kind of going right now. So we'll have to come up with something here. I'll think about it over the weekend of what we can do next after we are done with all of this. But all right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here so I can edit the show. And get it up for the podcast audience. And again, I highly recommend if you joined late and you want to go back and listen to the show, do so in the YouTube Music app, because you can see the video version there as well. So you can just scroll to wherever you were or whatever parts you missed and just listen from there. And we would greatly appreciate it. I'm okay to exist, but I'm with Chris. If I'm going to eat something unhealthy, I can find better ways to do it. Yeah, Tuttle, 100%. If I'm going to go down the path of being unhealthy, the Grimace shake from McDonald's is not going to be the thing I'm gonna go get. That's not what's going to happen. But all right, guys, we're going to call it quits. It's the weekend here, so I hope everybody has a great weekend. Whatever you guys are up to this weekend, I hope it's a good time. And I will talk to everybody on Monday.